Module 3, Enterprise Environmental Factors, Organizational Process Assets, and Project Managers' Competencies. So I'll repeat, these are the things we are covering today, and these are the things which is recurring most of the time in the project management body of knowledge. You take any process immediately, either as an input or as an output, we'll see the enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. PM competencies is important to understand to understand the expected roles and responsibilities of a professional project manager. Now, enterprise environmental factors, examples are organizational culture, structure and governance, geographical distribution, infrastructure, resource availability, market conditions, social and cultural influences, legal restrictions, physical environmental elements. So these are all just examples for enterprise environmental factors. That means before getting into a project, one must understand the enterprise environment in which the project has to operate. Now, this is COVID times, and if a project has to be executed in an area where the density of COVID is pretty high, then okay, there are associated risks associated with it. Or we should even know the political climate of a particular region. If the political climate is not very stable, then it is risky business. We must know the raw material availability. We must know the workforce availability. We must know the national holidays. We must know the culture of the country. When I say national holidays, in the US, maybe the last part of December you cannot execute projects because it is considered as holidays. Similarly, if you are executing a project in the Middle East, one should know the fasting times and stuff like that, because at that time the work hours itself will change. One cannot start a construction project in South India during the months of June, July and August, because it will be raining heavily. So understanding these enterprise environmental factors have a major influence. We must know the wages to be paid. We must know the trade union rules. We must know the transportation facilities. We must even know the geographical details, because recently I was talking to somebody. The contractor was supposed to make a site visit and inspect the site before even bidding for that particular contract, and he did not do it. The end result was when they were digging for substructure work, it was loose soil and seawater was entering, and that was a big risk, and it had a big impact on the schedule and cost of the project. The root cause for this was the contractor did not really go to the site and inspect it. He took it very lightly. So understanding the enterprise environmental factors before getting into a project is very, very important, because that has an impact on your project strategy, that has an impact on your project cost estimations and even scheduling. That is about enterprise environmental factors. Now let's move on to organizational process assets. Before getting into a project, one must understand the processes to be followed, the policies to be followed, and the procedures to be followed. The availability of organizational knowledge bases, organizational systems, organizational structures, and intellectual properties. Again, these are all examples for it. Now, if I get into a project with a multinational organization, sometimes they may ask me to follow their processes and policies and procedures for the project instead of mine, and that invites additional training cost, training time, and all those things. Then organizational knowledge bases. Sometimes the availability of organizational knowledge bases will help us for doing estimation, basically parametric estimation and stuff like that. So organizational knowledge plus historical data, lessons learned from past projects, everything can be part of organizational knowledge base, which will help while preparing the proposal even, and then preparing the project plans and preparing the project strategies and stuff like that. And one must understand the organizational systems, the organizational structures, policies, and the availability of intellectual properties, because these days, especially when you are executing projects jointly, protection of intellectual property rights is of very high importance. So intellectual property availability, how can we use it? How can we share it? So the knowledge of all these things are very, very important when it comes to project planning, when it comes to proposal preparation, and these things must influence or will influence even while deciding on whether to get into a project or not. So having explained organization, enterprise environmental factors, which is also known as EEF, and the organizational process assets, which is also the short form for that is OPA, that is organizational process assets. Maybe it is time to discuss about the roles and responsibilities, or the project manager's competencies. For all successful projects, project manager is a key element or a key contributor to the success and failure of the project. Project managers are more like the CEO of the project. They have responsibilities towards the team, they have responsibilities towards the sponsors, and they have responsibilities towards the stakeholders of the project. So as a project manager, first thing I must my responsibilities towards the team is, first is the right team selection, the right training, the safety arrangements, arrangements for daily commute to the site, safety arrangements, and maybe stay, food, all these things, their general well-being, their holidays, everything, medical claims and medical treatments. So I'm obliged to take care of my team very well. Then I have responsibilities towards the sponsors as well, because sponsors are doing these projects for a specific purpose. They must get the return on their investment. So I have a set of responsibilities towards the sponsors as well. Then there are a whole lot of other stakeholders like the subcontractors, subcontractors, suppliers, the customer, the general public, the government agencies. So as a project manager, I have responsibilities towards the other stakeholders as well. I must be ethical in all my transactions with the project team, with the sponsors, and with the stakeholders. Then as a project manager, one of the important competencies is technical project management skills, When we say technical project management skills, it is not about construction, it is not about plumbing, it is not about electrical. It is about the tools and techniques to be used in project management. So it is about the contents of a project management body of knowledge. It's about technical knowledge about project management. At the same time, yes, one should know a little bit, one should understand the domain a little bit so that we can relate better to the teams and other stakeholders when they discuss about the project. Here, the mention of technical project management is about the best practices of project management. Then as a project manager, one is supposed to lead the project, motivate the project. So one should have excellent leadership skills and one should have the competencies of strategic business management. As discussed already, organizations perform projects to implement their organizational strategies which will help them to achieve the business goals of the organization. So as a project manager, one should always know the placeholder or the purpose of his or her project when it comes to the business strategy. So the project manager should have competencies with respect to business strategy as well. 3 competencies: technical project management, leadership, and strategic business management. So we discussed about enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, and the project manager's competencies as well. In our next module, that is module 4, we'll be discussing about organizational breakdown structures and stakeholder management, which is one of the key things when it comes to present day project management. Because unless we deal the project stakeholders effectively, projects cannot be successful. So this is the content of the next module. I request you to post all your comments against this video, and I will answer them, comments/questions. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please do subscribe. And if you know anyone who will be, for whom these videos will be helpful, please share it with them as well. Thank you very much.